This is a little bit of a different format than usual. Normally we have someone standing up presenting or sitting in the conference room presenting. I talked with Phil and he said he'd had a lot of success with interviewing people and having panels before, so I called up my good friend Jake, who sits about 12 feet away from me, and said, hey Jake, we got a lot of people who are on the job hunt and a lot of them who are self-taught, so that was kind of your journey, let's talk. And he was gracious enough to join us tonight. So real quick, we are the Spokane Python user group, which most of you know, meeting monthly on the third Tuesday evening, which is tonight. I'm going to skip most of the intro stuff and maybe circle back to it at the end for sake of just getting into some fun conversations. So bathrooms are right past the kitchen, any of the brightly colored doors on the left. If you find stairs, you've gone too far. Please go back up the stairs and stay up here. It would be appreciated. So, Jake Brunner, man of many talents.
What's up?
I've had the chance or opportunity to know you for 2 or 3 years now, I think. How many jobs have you had, Jake?
I've more than enough. I think I don't remember what the number was the other day when I did that other thing with it. I think somewhere around 38 or 40 jobs. So been around doing a couple different things before I started doing development.
Any of the jobs stand out in your memory?
Yeah, there's some good ones for sure. I don't know. I was a parasailing instructor. I worked at a lot of restaurants. I was a jeweler. That was like my main gig. I'm sure a bunch of you guys know me, but yeah, I did jewelry for 10 years. Like from bottom to top, I worked at 5 different companies. I ran my own and did everything in between there before switching it up. Yeah.
And if I recall from previous talks, you only count a job if it was 3 months or longer or something like that?
Yeah, it was 3 months or longer, and I get taxable income from it.
Yeah. So that's not like
that's the bar.
Worked for 2 days, counting it. That's like a non-trivial amount of time.
I watched somebody's dog, and I just jotted it down. No, I had to, that was my marker. Yeah.
So what about some of these previous jobs wasn't working for you, wasn't scratching the itches?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've got crazy ADHD, and I just like to run around and do all kinds of different things. But I found that most of the time I would get into a job and I would do it for a while, and I would either hit the kind of the top of it where I couldn't really grow anymore, or I would just get doing the same thing every day. And that was initially when I decided I was going to do one thing well, which was jewelry, and I dug my heels into that. And then after 10 years, I kind of felt, I was like, man, there's not really anywhere else to go. I'm getting to create, I'm getting to be myself and do what I love, but it's just going to be this. And I just wanted a challenge. So,
and that challenge took the form of coding.
It did.
What drew you to writing code?
Coding, I was convinced to start coding by my friend at a bar when I was complaining about my job. And he was like, you should just teach yourself to code. I did it, and my life's pretty good.
Show of hands, who's heard that? Who's had that experience? Welcome, feel free to grab a chair. Who's had a friend say, you should just learn to write code?
Yeah, my buddy, he was, I think he was 30 or 31 at the time when he decided to teach himself to code. He learned for a couple years, got a job, and he was doing extremely well for himself, and he didn't have an education, and I was just like, dang. He's like, yeah, if I can do it, you can do it. You just got to get after it and just start learning. And so I kind of just blindly ran into it and started learning, Python being my first language to start. Yeah.
So you talked with your buddy, you decided to get after it.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned Python a little bit. Where did you start this journey?
So the journey started with me Googling lots of things and trying to determine what I was even supposed to learn. And I remember being very fixated on what language I was supposed to learn. Looking back, like I really don't think that mattered at all. The concepts across all the languages generally are the same. You learn, how to use the different terms and functions and make your patterns, and the language is just syntax. But yeah, getting into Python was, I don't know, I read it maybe on Reddit somewhere or something, and I was just like, this looks good. I think it was because it was very English readable, so it seemed like the easiest to kind of get into and not be overwhelmed by little symbols and widgets, which was actually a great choice. I don't regret that. I don't use Python really much anymore. But
Blasphemy.
Well, that's not, I mean, I would love to. I remember coming here, I was like, please put me on the team with Joe. I want to write Python. And they're like, no, C#. But, no, it's all good though. It's it's good to learn new things.
Yeah. So you're bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, writing your Python. How did you know what to learn? Like, how did you figure out this is where I'm gonna go on this learning journey?
That's a hard one. That was probably the biggest thing, is figuring out what you're supposed to be learning, because not only are there like a million different languages, but do you want to be doing like front-end design stuff? Do you want to be a full stack kind of developer? Do you want to work in data science and like analyzing things? And there's all these different paths, and then each path has a menagerie of things that you can learn. I was talking to Joe about this, and I think the separator between being self-taught and getting a degree is that it still takes a tremendous amount of work and effort, and you got to do all the stuff. The degree, you just pay for someone to give you a curriculum, which is very, I mean, personally, I think that it's all a lot of work, but having that curriculum kind of shown to you guides your path and makes the learning process a lot smoother. When you're self-teaching, it's like you could be 3 months deep into learning something and not have any idea if this is relevant to anything at all, which is pretty mentally taxing. I feel like emotionally taxing maybe. So figuring out, circle back here, figuring out what to learn is really important. I did it by finding a course just offered online. I looked at a bunch of different boot camps and various, I don't know, mentor kind of like pay a bunch of money and this guy will teach you some stuff. But I found a course, it's awesome. It was $15 and it took me like 6 months to do. It was very thorough. And by the end of it, it was all Python. And by the end of it, I was like making little widgets that were opening Chrome and like scouring the internet, like little bots. And like I made some various little programs. It was really good. But yeah, that was a good starter.
So at this point, you're at least 6 months into your journey,
about
cranking through your course.
Yeah.
Taking a quick step back, was there a moment for you where you like decided you were gonna kind of make the leap into this is Matthew Szymanski works here. He did a talk on full send or no send.
Full send or no send.
Was there a moment where you decided I'm full sending this?
That's a pretty early on thing. Like coding, learning to code on your own is like, I guess it's like working out or something. You just have to commit. You have to show up for yourself over and over and over again. And there is like some full sendness about that. Like, you can be a couple weeks in, you're like, this is cool, I'm enjoying this. And then you fade off, but to stick with it for 6 months, I mean, there's the commitment there.
So you talked about you did some online courses. How long were you just sort of doing these online courses and kind of nose to the grindstone, trying to learn as much as you could?
Yeah. So at the time that I started, I was running my own business. So work was like wake up and start early or start late. It didn't really matter because I just worked from home. And this was all around like the pandemic time too. So I was very much at home. But yeah, just getting up and digging into that. Like what I did that I thought was very helpful was I would try to start in the morning. And I'm not always a morning person, but I feel like getting up in the morning and getting a couple hours in before you start your day was very helpful. Especially later, when I started working for other people, I worked at a jewelry store on Division, and it was just a 9 to 5. But I would get up in the morning at like 6 or 7, and something about that like makes you feel like you're working for something when you like wake up at 6 in the morning and no one else is awake, and you're like, ah, but you start like, I don't know, it's inspiring to yourself or something like that.
So you're doing online learning or your online course, and you're waking up early. At what point did you actually talk to someone about code?
That was a ways in. I started to feel like I was going crazy because I'm like 6 months into doing something every single day, and I had never actually met another developer or had a single conversation in like the world about anything to do with code, which is kind of weird. So I still had no idea if I was like doing good or bad or the wrong thing or the right thing. And so I found this group, and this was like a big game changer. I had gone onto Reddit, and I was like, I've been doing this for 6 or 7 months. Like, I wrote all these little programs. I pretty much know what's going on. Like, I would go to Leak Code, I would do some challenges, and it would take me forever, but I would do them, and I felt confident enough. So Reddit told me that I just needed to go out into the world and start meeting other developers. And that was kind of the end of the explanation. And I was like, oh, okay. So I found the Meetup app, found this group, and just showed up here one day at random, and just had no idea what was happening at all. I don't remember what the subject was on, but it was something I had completely no idea what it was about. But I just sat there and like smiled, and like everyone had their laptops out and were taking notes. Luckily, I brought my laptop, and I just put it in front of me and just like patted on the keyboard for like an hour. I was like, yeah. I didn't take any notes, but yeah, I did that the one time. Then I was like, all right, I'm just going to commit to just showing up to this thing, whether I gain something from it or not, like every time. And so I became a staple of this group for like a solid year, and I met you. And yeah, whoa. That was awesome. That was so crazy. No, yeah, you were my first contact, as you may know.
I think I recall.
It was like the 7 or 8 month mark, I would say. I was like, you want to get some coffee with me? And you were like, yeah. Yeah, and then I was just really excited. I was like, oh, I got a meeting with a real developer.
So we met for coffee.
Yeah.
And what did anything change in your approach to learning, or did you start like trying to gravitate towards different technologies after you kind of got into the group and started talking with people?
After our meeting, you had like looked over some of my stuff that I had made, and you were like, oh, this is like a turtle racing game? What is this? But it like went pretty good, you know? I was like, all right. But I think after that, the focus kind of shifted, because I finished that course, and I was like, well, what do I do now? And so I was just asking him question after question, like, what do I need to do to get a job? What are people looking for? What kind of things should I build or learn? And I think you gave me some decent answers, but I started focusing more on like learning about different design patterns, learning like what does a full stack developer do? Like what is the stack? What does that mean? And then like if you're a front end person, like what kind of languages do you have at your disposal? What differentiates them? I kind of stepped away from Python a little bit and started poking around at just like the whole picture to get a better grasp, and started theorizing a potential portfolio that I worked on for a very long time. But yeah.
Yeah. So, kind of skipping forward, you've got this portfolio. You've kind of started dabbling in these new technologies. What was that first, interview application process? How did that go?
Yeah. So that was a good one. Those ones for the books. We had our meeting. We met a couple times, and then you were like, "Oh, I can probably get you a mock interview at my company." And so I was like, wow, like this is crazy. Like, let's go to this place, and I'm gonna meet with this big boss man. And I didn't think it was a mock interview like from the gate, so I knew that. But I came in here, and Joe sat down with our CTO at the time in that room, and they took my weirdo Python codes of my turtle racing game or whatever that I had made, and they blew it up on the big screen. And Grant was just like rolling through my code, and Joe's got the computer. He's like, Joe, what am I looking at here? And Joe's like, well, it looks like it's a turtle racing game, sir. And he's like, well, how does the code look? And Joe's like, well, it looks all right. And I just sat there, and these two guys just ripped through my code, and they were friendly about it. I mean, you were great, but
Friendly ripping.
I just felt rough. It was bad news. But I left that meeting, and I think I had showed Grant some of my jewelry. I was just like, I'm a person. Look, I do cool things. You can hire me. But he said, well, what you got is pretty cool, but if you want a job, like realistically, you need to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript, C#. Here's like a 1,000-page textbook that the CEO wrote. And good luck, call me when you're ready. And that was like verbatim, like, call me when you're ready. And I was like, yes, sir. And then I left with my tail between my legs, and I did not develop code for a good 2 or 3 weeks. And I was just like, oh, like, this is insane. I just spent 6 to 7 months trying to learn this one thing, and now I have this laundry list of things that I'm never going to be able to pull off. I was pretty devastated.
Yeah, I mean, you spent a large amount of time and energy, went into this optimistically, and left not so great, stepped away from the keyboard for 3 weeks.
It was a good break. And then I don't know what shifted, but I was just like, whatever, like, I just got to do it. Like, I've been getting up every morning at 6 a.m. I'm just going to keep getting up at 6 a.m. And so I found a second course, and it was by the same teacher, and I really liked the way that she did the course. It's on Udemy. It was also $15. So I think my whole education was literally $30 is all I've ever paid for that. So that's pretty sweet. But the second one was on HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then React, which was a little different. But Grant had said you need to learn some kind of front-end language like TypeScript, Vue, or React, or whatever, just something. And so I went with that, and that one was way more productive. And that one also took me about 8, 9 months, I don't know, something like that. But that one was a good one.
Yeah. I'd like to take a quick moment here, so we don't, wait till the end for any questions you guys might have. We've got one online. This is from Joshua.
Oh, Joshua.
He, around when did you begin to introduce AI into your learning path? And how do you feel it helped or didn't help accelerate your learning?
AI did not get introduced into my learning path until way later.
I mean, it wasn't like ChatGPT wasn't really a thing.
Yeah, I didn't have that, unfortunately. That would have been awesome. But that didn't come out till I would say probably 2 or 3 weeks before I started here, I guess it was. Because I remember taking the class at Eastern, and it showed up second semester. And I was like, whoa, this is cool. And so I tinkered with it, but I want to say it didn't really have, I mean, I guess until the point I got a job, from I have no idea what code even means to I have a job as a software engineer, I have no AI.
You mentioned the class at Eastern, and I want to circle back to that, but real quick, any burning questions from the audience? Welcome to our guests. Hey, Keith. Good to see everyone. No burning questions. All right.
I guess, what did you mean by design patterns as a non-computer science?
Yeah, so design patterns are just ways to structure your code. So when you start out, you learn the basics like strings and lists and here's how I make a function and here's what a class is and here's an object. You learn these core concepts, and then kind of the next step up is learning how to put those pieces together. And so design patterns are a set of, they continue to expand, but there's some common design patterns that people came up with that you can use that structure data for use in applications. Someone probably has a better explanation than that, but
Beyond, so Google it, and it's beyond inputs and the functions and outputs or
yeah, I would say you can Google it and it might make sense. They're all like, I'm still learning design patterns for sure. There's like a whole world of information in there, but looking up design patterns, maybe watching like YouTube videos and finding like an example of design patterns, or even asking like GPT to say, hey, can you give me a list of like 10 really common design patterns, and then tell it to give them to you in metaphors. Then it'll be like, oh, you have a car, it has wheels, you want to put the wheels over here, that's like a wheel factory. I mean, I don't know, for me, like metaphors are super helpful because I don't have to worry about all these like terminologies or these like very specific things. It's like, you know, I know what a car is and I know what wheels are, and if you go to the store and you buy a wheel, that's essentially a wheel factory, right? And you're putting it.
Absolutely unrelated. I'm so sorry for this tangent, but I TA'd an intro bio class one time where the professor loved using car parts as anatomical metaphors.
Oh no.
And then all the students were asking me like, what does the spark plug do? And
Yeah.
I was like, I can't help you
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I like metaphors a lot, and I think that they help me grasp concepts pretty good. But in any case, yeah, they're just ways of putting pieces together to do bigger things. And when you have a plan in place, when you're designing your program and you can plug in these design patterns, it helps your code flow a lot smoother, and it makes it more modular, and there's less dependencies, which can cause you big bugs later. So they're good to learn and use. Yeah.
Other questions? All right, we'll press on. We'll have time at the end too. So, you came in, you did the interview.
I did the interview.
Didn't go so well.
Yeah, could have been worse, but I mean, but it didn't go great.
You leave, go buy this new course.
Yeah.
Working on that. You mentioned a class.
Class didn't come till a lot, kind of at the end of the course. But the course was really cool in that it was designed to build a portfolio. But it was designed in a way where it's going to teach you a bunch of stuff, and then at the end of it, it gives you like a prompt essentially, like design a website for a random business. And it teaches you everything you need to know to do that, but then you have to implement that. And I mean, you're self-grading, so you could skip it if you want or whatever. But if you really get into it, you make a website initially that's just pure HTML and CSS, very bare bones, but you make it on whatever you want. And the cool thing about that is, as you go through these projects, then you have this like little unique thing that you made that no one else has that represents a concept. I did that over and over again. And like the security one, for example, there was this whole big segment on security, and you start out and you build a basic website that has like just some simple login, like username, password. You store it in a database. And then it makes you go back and you remove that, and then you say, okay, well, here's a login, but you're gonna like hash your passwords. And then you're gonna do it again, and then you're gonna hash and salt your passwords. And like you keep building on it, and you're making it more and more secure, and then eventually you like store all that in a database, and then you encrypt the whole database, and then you take the whole database out, and then you use Google OAuth, and like it brings you all the way to the end. And I remember I presented that to Grant. I was like, yeah, I worked through security. I went through all the different steps, so I kind of know what that is. But the school, I got towards the end of the course, and that went really well, and I built a lot of really cool stuff, and I had like some decent portfolio bits. But I remembered one of the things Grant said was, well, you need to learn C#. And for whatever reason, I did not want to learn C#. I was like, I hate this. This sucks. I tried to learn it a couple times, and I was like, man, this just sucks. There's so much ceremony and setup between everything you do, and it didn't feel good. And then I had that 1,000-page tome of knowledge that was all C#, but I definitely had to read because the guy who's going to hire me wrote it. Didn't want to read that. And so I found that they offer a course, and I talked to Joe. You helped me get it set up, And yeah, they let me just sit in the back of the class. So I sat in the back of the room for 2 semesters. That was my college experience. So that was kind of cool.
Over at the Catalyst building.
Yep.
Well, so this is like, we're coming up on 2 years, I think, of
Yeah,
learning.
we're chumming the waters with code.
How did you stay motivated and disciplined through this seemingly never-ending journey is probably, I imagine,
Yeah.
what it felt like.
Maybe just being around people who are doing it, having conversations, getting to see other people working and seeing that these people are not like some super genius kind of thing. Like I could probably do that. Being able to come into spaces like this, and I don't know. It just kept feeling more and more possible, I guess.
You mentioned earlier you had one rule. What was that rule?
Oof.
Yeah, something you did every day. It's unscripted.
The one rule, I don't know, I had a few different rules. Wait.
That's all right, we'll come back to it.
I don't remember what the one, maybe it wasn't, maybe there was 2 rules.
That's all right. Any rules you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think, no, I don't know.
That's okay. That's
Yeah,
all right.
let's pass on that for now.
So how did you said verbatim you were told, come back when you're ready.
Yeah.
Come back when you're ready. Like,
yeah, dude.
I imagine at the time it's like, what does that mean? What does ready look like? How do I know when I'm ready? So
Yeah.
how did you know?
That was a hard one. How do you know you're ready for something that you're teaching yourself? Like, that's tough. I felt like I knew I was ready because I started to do that course at Eastern, and the first semester was all on like deep dive into like the core of C#, the heart of the beast. And then the second one was like, oh, it's like kind of full stack developer stuff. We're gonna make a fun little word game app and like deploy it to the cloud. And it uses a bunch of different languages. That first semester, I showed up 6 weeks late, which was like 8 chapters into this tome. And that was the first day I went into class was the first day that I like tried C#. That was rough. But I survived that. And then
I forgot you went into it partway into the term.
I don't know if you guys have ever met Mark. He's really smart and he knows a lot of things. And oh, that class was so hard. But the second one, I was doing pretty good. I was like, following right along with the class. And I don't know, it builds your confidence a bunch when you feel like you're doing good, you're keeping up with the other people, I'm keeping up with these kids there at the end of their college, career. And this is my first time walking into school and I'm like hanging in there. But I wanted a portfolio, and part of that, and this is like an important thing, I guess, on the portfolio, you want more than just like to-do list apps and like things that people normally who are learning make, like these cookie cutter kind of programs. I think it's really important to find out things that interest you or that fascinate you and build code around those things because they keep you really interested. And it's going to force you to kind of, carve your own path. Like if you watch a bunch of YouTube videos or tutorials and they're going to teach you how to build an app or like, do something, you can follow along and you'll get it. But in the end, you're just building something that someone else kind of taught you to make. But like, let's say you want to like connect 10 pianos together to make some like cacophonous organ that like, I don't know, sends API calls out. Like you have some kind of vision for something. If you build that, you are going to have to design that. And if you don't know how to design that, you're going to have to learn, but you're passionate. I say that because I felt like I was ready because I made a really weird project like that. I was like into 3D modeling and art and design and crypto at the time, and I made this weird project. This was like right when NFTs were out and everyone was like, whoa, look at these. And I was like, I wonder if I could automate 3D modeled NFTs that I can sell for money. that seemed like a good idea. And so I created a bunch of assets in 3D, and then I used C# and I wrote some code, and then I wrote the nastiest Python program that was literally like just one program that was like 3,000 lines long of just some insaneness that I would never open up again. But it did it, and it worked, and like I turned it on, and I woke up the next day, and overnight I had like gigabytes of NFTs that were all fully unique, and they were all totally deployed on the OpenSea marketplace, done by the bot. And like, I was like,
I've got to ask,
hooray.
did you sell any?
I sold 2 to friends.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
it went great.
That's good.
Yeah, no, that wasn't the moneymaker, but it was worth a shot.
I think was there a trader app in your past somewhere?
Yeah, then that was another one, and that one I did as my final project for the class at Eastern, and it was a project that I had kind of worked on, poking at here and there, and I'm still building it. I've rebuilt it like 5 times, but it's an algorithmic crypto trading API website project that you can design an algorithm and it watches markets real time. You connect it to your trading accounts, and then when it deems that now is a good time to buy or sell, it uses the API and it goes and connects to your account, places those orders on the market and fulfills them, and will buy and sell for you. And the goal of that is, let me make a robot that will just buy and sell and make money for me when I sleep. Not that money is the main driver here, but yeah, I presented that in the class, and it went off really well. And I was like, I made a trade on the marketplace in front of like the whole group, and felt good about it.
Nice.
And I finished presenting that, and I went up to Grant, and I was like, hey Grant, I don't know if you remember me or if you remember what you said to me, but I'm ready. And he didn't remember, but
What did he say?
He's like, I don't remember what he said.
Who are you?
Yeah, it was like something like really nonchalant, but like, and he was like, I don't know, like, yeah, all right. And I was like, Grant, I don't know if you know this, but I've been waiting for this day. I was like, you said something to me 486 days and 3 hours ago. You said, come talk to me when you're ready. And like, I let him know that I was ready, and that I never forgot that. And he was like, all right, come in for an interview. And
How did that go?
that was great. It went off really well. Yeah. I guess that's a good thing to talk about. I don't know if it's the best thing, because I feel like building that relationship with Intellitech specifically, and Grant and Joe, and then like showing up to a class that like the interviewer is also kind of teaching. By the time I got to the interview, he knew who I was. He knew what I could do. He knew like that he also was able to give me a rap sheet of things that were going to take me a year to complete. And then I just like left, didn't say anything, and then came back and was like, here you go. That, I feel like that was my end. That was my technical interview, essentially. Because when I get to the actual interview, he asked me like 2 questions, which was, if you want to know, what's the difference between a base class and an interface? That was basically it. And I like weaseled my way through that answer, which I don't even want to tell you the answer because I'll probably mess it up. But yeah, he was like, oh, that sounds pretty good. And I got the job.
Yeah. So you had a year-long interview.
Pretty
sort
much.
of.
Yeah.
What did it feel like to finally get that first job?
It's extremely emotional, honestly. Not to like, make it weird, but I definitely cried. Like that was so raw, because the whole time you're teaching yourself, you just don't know if you're ever going to get a job, and you have all the cards stacked against you. You don't have any credentials at all. The chances of passing an interview when everything you read online is like, the tech industry is screwed, like everybody's losing their jobs, there's layoff everywhere, like, oh, Google just laid off 20,000 people or whatever. Like in my head, I'm like, damn, that's 20,000 people I'm gonna have to compete with, and they have work history. Like I worked at a restaurant, so getting the job was just like unbelievable. It was very, very mucho exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that brings us to, what, a year ago,
Yep.
give or take. Final couple questions from me. And this is now your chance to, well, we've been reflecting and looking back this whole time, but
Yeah.
kind of following the story forward. But now we've got these lovely folks in the audience. And now we're looking for a little wisdom, Jake, from the top of the mountain, the proverbial mountain. So a couple questions for you. How did you leverage your previous job experience? And you've talked about this a little bit, but can you go into that?
Yeah, I feel like if you're coming into tech and you don't have work history, or you don't have, accreditation, or maybe you do have those things. If you're trying to get a new job, I feel like what everyone's going to do is present their experiences or present their accreditations or talents or whatever on the resume. And then you just kind of see what you can do with that. But for me, I had kind of like a unique rap sheet of jobs and
38.
things. And and I had like done my own business and all these different things. And so I used that to help me get in the door. But then once I was in the door, they gave me a 3-month trial window where they were like, yeah, here, come see how you do. And then in that 3 months, I was like leveraging everything I have. I was like, I created I tried to come up with a new business strategy, and I came up with different ways we could talk to clients, and I tried to find new clients, and I was doing things that were off my computer, but they were things that I felt like I had some kind of experience with or knowledge with. And so I'd say, if you're getting in, look at what you do that's not related and that separates you from the people sitting next to you or the people that you will sit next to, and use that, because that is what makes you unique, and that is why people want to hire you potentially, is because you have something different to offer. Yeah, I feel like it's like a secret weapon.
Secret weapon. Well, building off the secret weapon, is there other advice you would give to someone who's in the middle of their journey, whether it's self-teaching or otherwise?
I guess I think it's really important to circle back to the point I was talking about, where you're being yourself, I guess, and doing things that you like. Those projects, having unique things to show people that's weird or fascinating or interesting or just different, it draws people in, which gives you more exposure. But at the same time, I can't emphasize enough how finding something that blends your skills together and then exploring that in code will push you to innovate, which will teach you. Because you can only learn so much from other people telling you things. You have to do it yourself. And failing is really important. And so when you're innovating and you're using your skill sets or your interests and you're combining them together, if I really liked maybe driving boats and making jewelry, I could put those together in a Venn diagram style. Or maybe I have 3 interests and I put all those together. And then I find little things that I could do in those cross sections, and then maybe in the middle between 3 things. And if I can make something out of that center section and turn it into code, it's going to be super weird and innovative. And it's going to force me to fail and learn and do all that stuff. And then in the end, I can present that when I go to a job interview and be like, look at this cool thing I made. And it's going to blow someone away, and it's at least going to give them something to talk about when they leave the interview. And so their other person's like, well, how'd it go? They're like, wow, that guy, he just made this weird jewelry fishing robot that, and yeah.
Were there any mistakes that you made that maybe lessons learned is a better way, where you would try and steer someone away from the route you took?
This is a little stupid thing, but I found it to be a good lesson. When I was watching videos and learning and taking those courses, even when I got into school, for a while, I was like coding along, like where you're watching a thing and it's teaching you how to build like a mobile app. And you're like, all right, I'm gonna watch this video and learn how to do this. And so you're watching the video and you're just letting the video play. Maybe you slow it down or speed it up or whatever, but you just kind of like code alongside it. Don't do that. Like, I did that for, I don't know, months and months when I first started. And you don't really feel that it makes a difference because you're still, by the end, like maybe you have to pause it a couple times, but in the end you have this thing that the guy in the video made. But you don't retain any of that. Like, it literally just goes in one ear and out the other. The change that I made was to watch 10 minutes or read 10 pages or something. Like, go through this segment of time until there's like a stopping point, pause the video, and then catch yourself up. But while you're watching it, take notes. And the way that and this is just kind of, maybe this is too nitty gritty, but the way that I would take the notes is I would draw a line down the center of the page, and I think it's called like Edison notes or something. But on the left side, you put subjects, and then you put like descriptions in like a keyword frame. But with code, I would put what I was trying to do with the code that I would use to do it. And I burned through pages and pages and pages of this, doing this. But the point of it is, you write and take notes to explain to yourself what you're supposed to do in 15 minutes. And that forces you to take in what you're learning and then process it in a way that you understand so that you can relay it back to yourself, which is kind of meta, but when you get into it and you start going, you actually retain all that stuff, which that was like a huge game changer. It was just taking notes differently. So that was a good lesson. I would say, I don't know, try not to get too caught up in the weeds. It really doesn't, just learn whatever. Just like start ripping and learning it all, and you'll figure out what path you need to be on, but don't get too caught up on like learning the right thing or the wrong thing. Just keep learning and it'll pan out. Is that good?
That's great.
Wisdom?
We've
Sprinkle there?
We've shifted gears, hopefully quelled some fears if you guys saw the title of the talk. Thank you, Jake. I appreciate you being here. Ladies and gentlemen, Jake Brunner. Lifelong learner, man of many talents.
Hey.
Any questions?
How long did it take you to pay off your education?
Shoot. Not too long, man. $30? That's a low ask. Yeah,
That was great.
that was a quick one.
Did your program for your demo at school, did it make money or lose money that day?
It definitely lost money. I mean, I didn't care if it worked or was, like, if it made money or lost money. I just wanted to be able to, like, show that I had, like, okay, here's this bot, and then here's this website I made, and then here's this connector, and it's all in the cloud. Now, if you watch the little bars as the ticker goes by and it hits this point, you'll hear a cha-ching sound. The cha-ching sound means that something happened. And sure enough, everyone was like waiting, and then it was like cha-ching, and I was like, we've done it. We've made a sale. Yeah, so it
You
went pretty
just
good.
like have VLC open up in the corner and just like click play.
Oh, yeah.
No, just kidding.
No, I did. It went all the way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very inspiring. Thank you for getting out and sharing this.
Yeah, I mean, I hope like, I don't know. I don't know where you guys are all at. I mean, I know some of you work already, and I think some of you guys in the back I haven't met before, but yeah, if you're teaching yourself, it sucks, and it's really hard, and it's really demoralizing. So I think it was important for me to come up and be like, you can do it. It's very possible, and it just takes getting up at 6 a.m. or staying up late. I remember the one rule. There it is. The one rule is code at least 15 minutes a day. Like, that is the bar. You have to do that. What you'll find is that more often than not, if you do your 15 minutes, you're interested in what you're doing and you'll end up going 2 hours. But starting is the hardest part. So that's my number one rule. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions?
It's kind of partially formed in my mind, but when you got the job here, you said there was like a 3-month like probation period or
It's like a intern, but not related to a school or program. An associate, they call it.
Okay. You talked about how you were focusing more on non-code related things at first. Is that right? Like more business related, trying to get clients and things like that?
I was trying to inject that in. I mean, I worked doing code, like a 9 to 5. But my brain was like, how do I make myself seem valuable,
Okay.
you know?
I was wondering how you determined like where were the boundaries on that part of it? Like how did you know like what was appropriate when you were recommending?
Yeah, I didn't really think about
strategy?
appropriateness. I don't know. I just kind of, like as a business, if someone's like, hey, I might have a new client for you, like, that's always a good thing. And yeah, it's all about risk, I think. So
It's all what?
there's a lot of risk involved. You just got to take chances and you're shooting in the dark. It's the same thing with like showing up to the meetups as opposed to just continuing to learn on your own. You got to put yourself out there and, take those chances and make those relationships. And I think you'll often surprise yourself, like by the things you're capable of doing, and then you'll surprise them too, and then you get jobs and offers and friendships and everything else. I hope that answers your question a little bit.
I was just curious about, like kind of being the new person, and then I know like politically sometimes there could be a risk of like stepping on toes or creating tension or conflict and that kind of thing, and just wondering like how all that went.
Yeah, I think you got to be delicate. You got to have some tact when you deal with stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I still feel imposter syndrome, and like, but I also am still trying to do things and push myself to, I don't know, make new opportunities. And yeah, I'm kind of in the middle of that right now. I don't think that goes away, but yeah.
Yeah, we kind of dovetailing with that, we had a question online. How do you feel about not being a college graduate? How do you feel that it's affected your career, or maybe it hasn't? And do you feel, how do you fight imposter syndrome? It's the old 3-for-1 question.
Yeah. I think it can be weird sometimes. I mean, I don't know how many people work here that don't have degrees, but
A few.
there's a few. We got a lot of people that work here. It's a little intimidating, especially at first. I was like, dang, these people are just having crazy conversations. Like, I finished high school, went pretty well, but there's some really smart people around here, and it's super intimidating. I don't know, just proving to yourself that you can do it, and then like, even if you don't think you can do it, and then you try, and then you do somehow, like seeing those results, you build your confidence up, and then I guess the line blurs between whether or not having a degree matters at all. I mean, you have a degree.
I have a degree.
I don't. We're sitting here together right now.
All EW, yeah.
It's all blurry. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. Has anyone ever, since you've worked here, walked up and asked if you had a degree?
No, I think I don't know. There's been a couple conversational things that have happened, but nothing weird. I think people, like, I've had someone ask me if I had a degree, and I was like, no, and they're like, oh, but like, whatever, dude. Like, we all work in the same place. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
The one I'm curious about is you specifically mentioned about your approach to learning from videos and building alongside.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how did that come up? How did you realize that you weren't ingesting the material, I guess, like compared to, I mean, you might not know a specific point, but like you were saying, at one point you felt comfortable enough that you knew Python well enough, did some leak code.
Yeah.
How did you self-judge that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it is maybe, I don't know the exact point, but there was definitely some times where I would spend a couple weeks learning, and then I would get some kind of idea. You know, the first idea I had that was like off the cuff was my wife loves plants and she gardens and she has way too many of them, and sometimes they die. And I was like, I want to build like a system that will manage all of them, where like they each have their own settings. They get watered individually, like pot by pot at different times, different things. Maybe I put some sensors in there. I don't know. I had this like whole plan, and it was just a cool idea. And then I went to execute that plan after making like 5, 6, 7 different Python apps, start to finish through this course. And then I like opened up the IDE and was like, all right, fresh program. This is all me. Like, here I go. And I had no idea how to even like start. And I was like, wow, I've done this like 6 or 7 times. I've followed these things, like, but just opening it from scratch and you have a blank canvas, I got blocked. And I was just like, I have no idea like what I'm even supposed to do. I ended up having to go back and look at some of the code that I had written in the course to start. And I was like around that point where I was like, man, I don't know if I really learned any of that. Like, I learned how to follow along, but I didn't learn how to actually do it. And now I can start with a blank canvas and create a fresh program that does something totally new. I learned. Yeah.
Awesome. You mentioned having a portfolio. What about open source or getting, credit for contributing anything there? Has that ever been a consideration? Or?
I mean, I haven't done any of that, but I know for a fact that that's valuable for sure. I mean, if you're committing to an open source project that there's plenty of other developers on, and I mean, I imagine that if your commits have any substance to them, that's definitely something that you could bring up, be like, hey, I committed to this repository. This is a bunch of real deal developers here, and I'm in the group. You know, that's definitely some evidence that you are a person who can do code, for sure.
All right. What about large code bases? Have you had to encounter and manage those?
Any stored procedures in your life recently?
Yeah, so I can't, yes. I can't get into any details, but when I got here, I was really hoping to be working on some Python with Joe, and I even made a request in my interview that I was like, it'd be really cool if I was on the Python team with Joe. And Graham was like, well, I'll see what I could do. Nope. First day, I get in there, and they were like, oh, go into this boardroom. There's like a meeting starting. And I don't have, so this is just my, it was tough. I don't have that college experience. I've never made presentations. I've never used Teams. I don't even know how to CC someone in an email, like blue collar guy. I go to this meeting and they're talking about vertical slices and like, I don't know, all these like tech jargons. And we get into this project that has a very, very deep code base that goes on as far as the mind can think. And I just got dropped right into that. Brutal. But you learn to deal with it. And then you get, you learn the sprawl and you learn how to walk around it, I wouldn't be too afraid. Yeah. Is that a good answer for that?
Yeah, no, I was just curious what your thoughts are. You want to give anyone else a chance to ask a question? Or?
Yeah, I mean, anybody else got any questions?
If it's not a company secret, what are you using as the server-side code language? Or, like a bunch of them?
What am I using for server-side code language?
IntelliSense. What are you guys using?
What do you, on your project, what's
Oh,
your
yeah.
backend language?
So I think it is definitely project specific, but for ours, we're doing like C# backend, and then our front end is like Blazor Maui hybrid, which allows you to have like, it's pretty cool. You get a website, and then you have a mobile app and a desktop app if you want. Like it kind of, you write one code base and then it applies to all three, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, C#, all C#. Yeah, I will say, I love C# now. There's a lot of ceremony, but you learn how to lay the chicken bones in the right way, and it comes out pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what made you decide to try out LeetCode as part of your learning process?
I think I just watched some videos of people saying that you needed to know how to do that stuff for interviews. And so I gave it a shot. I really don't like LeetCode, actually. I prefer Code Wars, if you've ever used that. It's very similar. It just has a different format, and I feel like it's not so heady.
Say Code Wars?
Code Wars. Yeah, they have it for all the different kinds of languages, but you go in there, and they're going to give you the same types of questions-ish, but it's just, it feels less intimidating for some reason. And when you finish the question, it opens up the comments, and you can see other people's solutions like right there. And you rack up your points on your account. I don't know. It's just like a little, I don't know. I feel like Code Wars, or LeetCode, I would try it sometimes. And it just, the questions would just like totally rock my world. And I was like, I don't even know where I'm supposed to start with this. And then I would look at the solution and I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. But the way they phrase the question just sucks. I mean, yeah. So
I think I've done like 3 LeetCodes
Yeah?
before, not many.
Hey, try those Code Wars. They're pretty good.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's fun.
Has coding or learning to code changed your perspective on anything regarding computers or technology and software being used?
Yeah. Learning to code has been so good. So I like to do a lot of different things. And I learned to code. I got this job. I was cruising. I'm on my project. I'm starting to feel secure. Like, I'm like, all right, I finished a couple tasks. They went okay. And then I got excited about electronics. And I got a little Raspberry Pi, or Arduino, whichever one from this guy right here. Yeah, Raspberry Pi. He gave me the first one of those. And so I started getting into that. And it's been like 7 months, and I have gone way too far with learning electrical engineering now. And I have like all these bits and bobs of things that sometimes I know what they do and sometimes I don't. But that mixed with code has allowed me to think about the world differently. At this point, like, I have like a jewelry casting studio. I can like make metal solid objects. I can write code for like brains of machines, and now I can also make the physical machines and the parts. I don't know. I feel like I could literally build anything, and it's super exciting. Yeah, I use on that ping pong table back there. I don't know if you guys were here last time. You saw me working on that. I got to make the ping pong table into a smart table, and it works. It's kind of cool. But yeah, code.
It's got like sensors on the bottom that track the ball, right?
Yeah, there's wires and bits all on the bottom of there, but it detects vibrations of the ball bouncing on the table, and then it sends that to displays and calculates the score, and it counts for like when you miss the table. Yeah, just making stuff. It brings a lot of joy. Yeah.
Question from online. What appealed to you most about the software industry?
Well, it's a digital world, and being able to get your hands into that and mess with it is super exciting. Recently I got a certification through Microsoft for AI, which is cool. So hopefully I'll get to work on some like real deal AI projects. But yeah, just digging into the digital world, man. That's what's going on right now. So it's exciting to be able to do.
What did that entail?
The certification.
Was it around it, or?
Lots of grueling hours spent reading Microsoft docs. It's just not fun. But yeah, we did like a little group course here and it was like, I don't know how many weeks, but we'd all meet up and talk about some stuff and then go home, and there was like 4 or 5 hours of homework. The work was a lot of tutorials, reading the docs, learning about all these concepts, and then building little bot after little bot that did various different tasks. You build like Domino's pizza tracker chat bots, or you build like the like analyzing images, analyzing audio. Okay, here's how you plug in like piles of PDFs, pull data out of that. Now you can create documents, like all the different things that AI could do via the Microsoft Azure channel only is what that was all about, was just learning how to build Azure bots. But yeah.
Does it use TensorFlow?
Honestly, the course that I was taking, it did not get into like coding AI so much. I mean, it taught you how to use the tools to plug it into your projects. But it was mostly just, I mean, this doesn't even sound cool, but it was just how to use Microsoft services to build AI for enterprise applications. So, yeah, I'm glad I did it, but it was kind of tough. Yeah. See?
Any others? You'll be around for a little
I'm chilling.
bit?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. I
Yeah.
think the way we end this is we just stand up.
Yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble.
Yeah.